Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's Burner Partner video. We're going to have a look at the weather for next week, 10 days for today's final video. Day 10 will take us to the 3rd of February, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. Maybe run around a couple of weeks. We'll have a look at the CFS at the end of the video for the next 4 weeks, and that gets us well into the second half of February. I shall get on with that for you in a moment. Just to say that the first video today was the 6 AM upload, and we've also released the extended European Outlook as well. So check out those two videos, like, share and subscribe on the vids. Thank you so much everybody for doing that. We're on our way to 15.5k subscribers. I think I've put on around 65 subscribers now to get us down to 15.5k. So if you could give us a sub, it'd be absolutely fantastic. 15.5k the next mini target. The next major target though is 16k. Goodness gracious me. And thank you so much everybody for doing that. Right, so we're going to start off with the scenario in the Stratospheric, a little bit of stratospheric data, of course, to start us off. So just to confirm, as we did yesterday, that a significant warming for stratosphere is taking place currently over Siberia with these red colours there. That's a very substantial warming over Siberia. The blue and purple colours, the cold temperature at 10 HPA in the stratosphere over the Arctic and North Pole. Temperatures there somewhere in the -70s and whatnot. Well, let's run through, see what happens. So this warming of the stratosphere over Siberia is going to push into the North Pole, modified, but it will push into the North Pole and cause a displacement event, what we call a displacement event of the polar vortex. So the PB, blue and purple colours, stratospheric polar vortex, will be pushed out of the North Pole and down into the North Atlantic and into northern parts of Europe. We call that a displacement event. So the first warming sort of eases off, but then get this second warming appearing at the end of January. That one's a little bit more significant than the current warming, actually, over Siberia. And again, see that one is penetrating into the North Pole as well. Meanwhile, the displacement of the stratospheric polar vortex continues at its roots in the stratosphere over the North Atlantic and over northern Europe as well. What happens beyond that? Well, the warming continues over northwestern parts of Siberia, extending into the North Pole. And these blue colours continue to be weakened and displaced in the North Atlantic and across northern parts of Europe. Eventually, we find that warming starts to sort of centre itself more towards Greenland, which is quite interesting. So the warming going over towards Greenland and that side of the Arctic and the North Pole. And that allows the stratospheric polar vortex to begin to start easing its way back towards its rightful position in the North Pole. That's how we finish up. The stratospheric polar vortex is still alive and in business. It hasn't been obliterated by this warming. So this is not a sudden stratospheric warming, really sort of major sudden stratospheric warming. It's not splitting the vortex or sending the solar wind into reverse, just displacing it. But it's quite interesting how the warming kind of congregates towards Greenland and in towards northwestern Canada as well. Maybe that could produce a little bit of a blocking, by the end of February. We'll have to wait and see about that. This is the 6Z, how the 6Z run is looking. So again, currently this significant warming occurring over Siberia. It will cause a displacement event, and then renewed by a secondary warming by the end of January into the beginning of February. That one penetrating towards the North Pole as well. So displacement of the polar vortex into the early part of February, into the North Atlantic, and then we find that polar vortex starts to inch its way back towards its rightful position. That's how we end up with GFS 6Z, the stratospheric polar vortex, albeit much weakened and displaced. It's been had a battering, and it's been really put through the ringer, but it does finish up back in its rightful place over the top of the North Pole. Look how much shrunken it is, though. That's how it looks now. That's stratospheric polar vortex now. Look how much weakened and shrunken it looks by the 9th of February. So, it's going to have a real hammering, going to have a real battering, but it is still alive and in business up to the 9th of February, despite everything that it's put through it still continues, which is, quite remarkable, really. And this is like the indestructible, the immortal polar vortex. We've had the polar vortex of doom in 2020, but this is like the immortal polar vortex. I think. So, yeah, that's how the GFS is looking. This is how things look in terms of zonal wind forecast from the GFS ensembles, whatever it's called. So, already the zonal wind is starting to weaken, actually, which is better. So, we are seeing a deceleration of zonal winds. We're going to drop further by the end of January. We're down here. So significant weakening of zonal winds, but not a reversal. For a reversal, we have to go down to that zero line just there. After about a little bit of a bounce back, the zonal wind will start to inch back up again, re-strengthen. That's because the stratospheric polar vortex is not being destroyed by this displacement event. So as the polar vortex goes back towards the North Pole, zonal wind begins to increase. There are a few ensemble members there that are dropping the zonal wind again. That might be from another warming or something could be going on there. I've not been through the ensembles today, but we do see that like there's a weakening, the initial weakening down to there, then a bit of a re-strengthening, and then a few of the ensembles are dropping the zonal wind again, potentially. So how they're doing that, I'm not sure. I've not been through the ensembles today, as I say. But anyway, we'll keep you updated with GFS data. We have got ECM data as well. This came through last night. We live streamed this, but I just want to feature it in this video for anybody who didn't watch last night's live stream. So this would be week 1 at 10 HPA temperature anomaly forecast from ECM extended model. Again, for the current week, this is for the 23rd, no, this is for the 23rd, so the 30th of January, and you see the significant warming of the stratosphere taking place over Siberia, and in towards the Arctic as well. Displacement event of polar vortex with both blue curves pushed out into the North Atlantic and Northern Europe. That's week 2. So polar vortex is displaced towards Western Europe by then. Significant warming of the stratosphere clearly taking place. But as these are anomalies to average, we can't say that's an SSW, and we know actually it isn't because the wind is not going to reverse. Nevertheless, significant warming of the stratosphere taking place over the Arctic in week 2. Week 3 looks like that, and it's the 6th to the 13th of February. A little bit similar to what the GFS was just showing, but the warming kind of becomes centred towards Greenland and northwestern Canada, which is quite interesting, or northeastern Canada, I should say, quite interesting for the warming to become focused there. If there could be a tropospheric response, maybe it would be via some sort of Greenland type feature, blocking feature, who knows. That's how it looks for week 4 as well. Again, warming is kind of centred over Greenland and northeastern Canada. You know, I'm not sure we'll get a tropospheric response with this, but if we did, it would be interesting to see if that would be focused around Greenland towards the end of February, I think. And then weeks 5 and 6 find that warming kind of fades out, but still there. There's no sign of the polar vortex really getting its act together up to the end of February. This is the zonal wind forecast for the next 6 weeks from the ECM. So again, you see that we're starting off very strong zonal winds. We are going to get a big weakening, a deceleration, but not a reversal of zonal winds out of this warming. Then a little bit of a bounce back in the strength of the zonal wind, but nowhere to the level it is now. It has been, you know, but a little bit of a bounce back taking place there through early February. Interesting that as we go into the middle and second half of February, we find that the zonal wind mean line here, this deeper blue line, thicker blue line, starts to drop again. And there are a few ensemble members that are sending zonal winds into reverse through the middle and second half of February. So maybe mid-February will be on the SSW. And again, I would not be surprised if we have another shot at this into the middle and second half of February. Of course, we're getting late on though by then into winter, so any tropospheric response, if we did get an SSW in the second half of February, would be more focused on March and possibly April, which I'm sure a lot of you would rather avoid if, you know, blocking cold weather in March and April. But the further on we go with this without getting the SSW, if it does occur late February, then that will have more impacts for the early part of the spring. Anyway, we shall keep watching, we shall keep monitoring, and we'll see what happens. Central temperature is continuing to edge down. The CT is now sitting at provisional 5.4. That's 1.5 degrees above average. That's provisional to the 23rd. That will drop further tomorrow after last night's cold night is incorporated. That should then start to steady a little bit, so probably coming out sort of low fives, maybe 5.0 to 5.3, something like that in the end. We just wait to see how that ends up. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We're at London today, so the red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for London. We're actually starting up above average with the upper air temperatures at the moment, but of course we've got an inversion going on across England and Wales, especially central parts of England down in the south. Though it's much colder on the surface than it is a lot. At this time of year, the upper air temperatures don't give you the whole story in all scenarios. But anyway, we're going to find it turns a little bit colder with the upper air temperatures around Thursday. They're just generally trending average to slightly below average through the rest of January into the start of February. So no sign of anything particularly mild coming up into the early part of February. Later on into February, maybe a little bit of a recovery in the upper air temperatures there. Lots of dry weather over the rest of January as well, becoming more unsettled as we go through the first week of February, perhaps. Temperature anomalies from the 24th of January to the 1st of February are colder than average for England and Wales, only slightly, but a little bit below average for England and Wales, average to a little bit above for Scotland and Ireland. And the precipitation anomaly from the 24th of January to the 1st of February is drier than normal. The latest windflow map from earthnullschool.net shows that we're still bringing in this chilly, quite cold wind from off the continent into southern parts of the country at the moment. The milder southwesterly winds are away to the northwest. We will find those milder winds extending down across the country tomorrow, but then after that it will go cooler again. This is how the latest UK Met Euro run is looking for midnight on Friday. High pressure ridging into the country, bringing a lot of dry and quite chilly weather into the weekend. Start to turn a bit milder, especially in the north, with winds going back into more of an Atlantic type direction. A little bit of a cold snap there by the end of Sunday into the beginning of Monday. That's especially so for Scotland, with a bit of a northerly wind. High pressure quickly ridging and cutting that off. But notice that northerly across most parts of Europe. So next week, most parts of Europe will be plunged into cold weather. We just see on the very edges, on the very periphery of that. Icon looks like this, and again, high pressure ridging through the country, through the last part of the week into the weekend. Keeps it mostly dry down in the south, probably quite cloudy and a bit chilly. Further north, it will be milder. And then into the open next week, no northerly with Icon, that's shunted off to Scandinavia, and we just start looking increasingly unsettled really by this time next week. Lower pressure starting to come in from off the Atlantic. GFS midnight run once more with winds in from the northeast on Friday, so quite chilly then, and then into the weekend, probably quite cloudy, mainly dry in the south, some showing rain up in the north. A quiet weekend, northerly there as we go through from Sunday into Monday, especially so for Scotland. That quick gets shoved off by Tuesday. High pressure ridging in from off the Atlantic, but really quite cold under that ridge. Then another sort of attempt at a northerly shot there around the middle part of next week. Always on the periphery, always on the edges of it, but certainly not mild through the through most of next week. Most of next week looking quite cool, if anything, I would suggest. Moving up to and beyond day 10, we look like that. High pressure to our southwest, ridging up towards the Scandinavian high as well. And we end up looking like that, so low pressure continues to come in from off the Atlantic. The GFS has dropped that stormy idea around the 5th, 6th of February today. That's a big old ridge up over western Russia there, so we need to keep an eye on that. But up to the end of GFS midnight run, we keep winds in from off the Atlantic, albeit it's not particularly mild. And the GFS 6Z, again, not much of a muchness really for the end of the week and into the weekend. Early next week, we get this northerly interlude for a day or so. And then up to day 10, we start to establish more of a west-southwesterly, so the GFS 6 is a little bit wider. Looking a little bit on the stormy side there, perhaps for the 4th of February. That's a deep area of low pressure out to our west, bringing heavy rain, and then quite cold air from that west-northwesterly. Then very zonal, very zonal. Hints at quite stormy weather there by the 6th of February. That's a very intense tropospheric polar vortex that we've got going on at that point. We finish up looking like that, flat as a pancake, winds in from the west, so very westerly up to the 7th of February there. If you enjoyed the video, please you like, share, subscribe, please share everybody doing that, drop a comment, let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. Thank you so very much everybody for doing that. GM once more with high pressure to our west and southwest over the end week and into weekend. Lots of dry weather in the south, a little bit unsettled and milder up in the north. Early next week we get that slight northerly, Monday to Tuesday. Most parts of Europe turn really cold early next week with plenty of snow, even down into the Balkans and southeastern parts of Europe. We're under the ridge and we keep it generally quite mild. Up to day 10, we look like that starting to turn a bit more unsettled, especially so up in the north. And where are the ECM? So what have I done with the ECM? Right, I'm going to pause the video, get the ECM up. Hold on, everyone. Right, ECM's up. Here we go. So on Friday, high pressure risen into the country. Quite cool in that area of high pressure. Over weekend, main dry for the south. Probably quite cloudy, a little bit on the cool side, milder, perhaps a bit more unsettled up in the north. Temps at a northerly there from Sunday into Monday. That gets shoved off to our east, and we keep it generally close to average, probably with temperature. Another attempt at a northerly there on the 1st of February, next Wednesday. Again, that one's mostly kept away to our north and east via this ridge of high pressure into the south. And up to day 10, we look like that. So probably starting to turn a bit milder by day 10, which is the 3rd of February. This is a precipitation forecast based on the ECM run from tometeo.com. Not much going on, really, from a precipitation perspective. Most of the rain will be in the north and west over the next few days. Very little getting down into the south, and even in the north and west, it's not huge amounts of rain. Let's take colder weather around the middle part of next week. Shadow turning wintry up in the north then. And then up to day 10, we just keep the wind in from the southwest, so it actually becomes a little bit milder. The options on the table within the ECM ensembles are missing again at the isotope metals. We have got them from ECM.int both, so these are the options on the table from the ECM ensemble today for day 10. Gets us to the 3rd of February from ECM. We have got 15 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure to our north. They're bringing winds from the Atlantic. That's looking quite mild. We've got another 15 here that are going to be very mild and unsettled with deep low pressure in off the Atlantic, so that looks really unsettled as well. And then we've got 13 members of the ECM ensemble just here, anticyclonic, high pressure reaching up from the southwest. That will be much drier, of course, and pretty mild. And then we've got 8 just here again with high pressure in control, but centered a little bit to our west, so that's probably the coolest option. That could be bringing in a wind from more of a northwesterly direction, so that's a slightly colder option. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This gets us to the 8th of February. We've got 20 members of the ECM ensembles having a go at building a Scandinavian high, but with low pressure out to our west and high pressure in the Azores. We're generally keeping the wind in from the west. Cold air is down into eastern parts of Europe with that, with the jet stream doing something a little bit like that. And then we've got 12 members of the ECM ensembles that have deep low pressure over top of the country. Very unsettled, not overly mild with that, but very unsettled. We've got another 9 just here with deep low pressure over slightly to the south of the country. We are on the cold side of the jet stream with that, but with no northern blocking to force the cold air out. It's not really cold, but it's probably quite chilly. Probably cold enough for snow in the north and that sort of thing. And then we've got 5 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure in off the Atlantic, so all looking quite unsettled really with most of these options in 2 weeks' time. And the last option is this one. 5 have high pressure over and to the northern country, extending back to northern blocking, and that will bring in the wind from the northeast. That will be by far the coldest option. But again, there's only 5 doing that, so it's a very, very small minority option. Lastly, the CFSB2, these are 500 millibar high times break down into week periods. The first week period takes from the 24th to the 30th of January. Becoming week is anticyclonic, so high pressure keeps things mostly dry. Albeit start to turn a bit more unsettled up in the north, which leads us to week 2, a big change, 31st of January to 6th of February, low pressure takes over, we're back into Atlantic-driven weather then. Week 3 will be the 7th to the 13th of February, low pressure again, keeping things very unsettled with winds in from up the Atlantic. And finally, week 4, it's the 14th to 20th of February, low pressure out to the northwest, high pressure building around Spain, some France, winds in from the southwest, and that could go very mild, maybe even dare I say a taste of spring with that, albeit we have got northern blocking mode lurking to our north. But as it is, that could be really mild into the second half of February, possibly with a taste of spring. We'll have to see about that. And we're done. If you enjoyed the video, please can you like, subscribe, thank you so much, everybody. Do that. Why not drop a comment? Let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. And don't forget to tell your friends about GavsWeatherVids. It's amazing, incredible. I mean, thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. For us. Right, so that's it for today's content. Please like, share and subscribe on those videos. Thank you so much, everybody. To take tomorrow 6 a.m. upload USA forecast. I'll be live streaming our 10 to 14 day at 6 p.m. So I shall see you live for that one. For today's videos, that's all for now though. And thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.